Good day, everyone. I welcome you to another lectures on introduction to STATA. If you have been following the lecture, um, this will be fifth lecture, the fifth one in the series of our lectures on introduction to STATA. And in case you've missed the previous lectures, you can make use of the YouTube channel that my YouTube channel, and the link is as shown on the slide. So we have the link on the slide. I know for those of us that have been following, we have taken us through sessions in the previous lecture. We look at the starter environment, how to create a log file, then how to get data into our starter data editor or starter environment. So that is where we stop. So in this lecture, we'll be looking at what I will call management, data management. And under this content, we are going to look at the following um, items, so to speak. So we'll be looking at how to, if you have your data, how to know the information about the data you have in your data editor. Then either you want to name or rename a variable. We are going to look into that as well. Then how do we label variable or label levels that a variable may have, especially those nominal variables. I try to explain the importance of labeling of variable. So when we get there, we will see the importance of that. Then how do we create a new variable from existing variables? So if you have a variable already and you want to use that existing variable to get a new variable, so we are going to look at that as well. And we also look at how do we group observations of a variable. If you have a continuous variables and want to categorize that variable into categories, into various categories. So it's part of data management. And in case we have a variable, we want to list the observations, and from that observation, probably we see a very outlier value that maybe is too bogus, and we want to replace such value. So we see how to do that as well. And how do we drop variables? Maybe you have a variable that probably you created it and you don't need it again, and you don't want to delete the old data. So it's just a particular variable that you want to do away with. So we look into that. Then finally, when you have your data, how do you save such data? Maybe you simulate the data or you import it. You want to give it a name. You want to name it. You want to save it so that in your subsequent interaction with STATA or analysis, you can easily recall sort data and subsequently use sorts. So this is what we are going to be looking into in this particular uh, lecture. As I've told us, in case you miss out from our various lectures, so you can make use of the link on this slide. It's my YouTube channel in which all those lectures are there. Now let's start in the earnest. Um, Let me quickly share the starter window for us. Good. This is our starter window as we are familiar with. This is our starter window. So let's First and foremost, as I told us, create a log file so that all the sessions of today's lecture will be saved in short file. And if you recollect, I told us that the command is log using the name we want to assign to short file. We follow using, let's say we call it practical 5, practical 5. Then we say dot log. Dot log means that we are creating a text type of log file. So we press enter. So we have created a log file. Um, let's look at the auto data that we have in the system. As I've told us in the previous lectures, we see how we can make use of the data that are shipped or that are loaded with the package. So we can use them for practical purpose as we are about to use it. So the command to recall or to load sort data will be system use, then the file name. The file name of sort data of that data is auto. So press enter. So the command has loaded the data for us. I'm going to the data editor. I click it. So you see the data as you have seen. So I want to close it back so that I can start the content, the items I have in my content as displayed earlier. So the first thing that we will look into is how to know the information about the data that we have just loaded. Instead of clicking on data editor, I can just say describe. So if I say describe, it's going to give me the description of the data so that I will know the variables, the number of variables and their respective name, as well as the variable label, as you have seen on our slide, as you have seen on our slide. So that is how to get the information or the description of our data. So that is just the command. So the next thing we look at is how do we name a variable? In case you enter the variable yourself, as I've told us, by default, STATA will automatically give that variable the default variable name, maybe var1, var2, var3, and so on. So, but var1 is not appropriate name for a variable. A variable is supposed to have a name so that the researcher or whoever that has access to the data will have a kind of information, inclination about such variable. So that's essence of a variable name. So we are going to use the two approach, that is a variable that we have given a name, we want to rename it again. Like we have a variable name make as in our auto data. So I can rename it and call it name1. So the command is rename. Instead of writing the name in full, I will just say REN. The existing name will follow after the space. Then the new name that you want to give to sort a variable. So I may call it make underscore new. So that is the new name I'm giving to make. Then I press enter. So the starter would have renamed or replaced that make with make underscore new. So if I go to data editor now, you see that the first variable there is now make underscore new. And if it is a new variable, let me just illustrate here by just typing maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and so on. Assuming I type all those up to the last entry, you see that by default, the starter assign the immediate number of variables that ended the foreign, which is 12th variable. So the next variable is variable 13. So by default, starter assign var13, that is variable 13 to that. But it's now left for me to give that VR13 appropriate name that will make meaning to whoever that have access to our data. So the command is still, so I may just come to the last command that is similar to it. I explained the importance of this window, this review window. So instead of typing all the time, so if you have a command that you want to edit, so you just click on that command, it will bring short command to your command window, and you edit it appropriately. So I want to rename VR13 as maybe serial number, serial underscore number. So that is that. And if I press enter, it has appropriately renamed that variable 13 PR13 as a serial number. So that is how to rename or name a variable, either name a new variable or rename an existing one. So we quickly go to variable label, variable label. So you will see that the, what do you call it? When I describe the data, let me quickly go back to it, scroll it back. You see that the last column on that table, you have variable label. So that variable label is a way of explaining or describing what a particular variable is. If I just say a variable is make, it doesn't make much sense. But if I go to variable name now, I will see that it's saying that it's talking about the make and model of a particular vehicle. Though price is price, that one can be very clear. But what about MPG? MPG may not make sense except the researcher him or herself that will understand what an LPG is. But if you go to the variable label, you see that it says that mileage, that is the meaning of LPG, mileage, and so on and so forth. So that is the importance of variable label. That's the importance of variable label. Now, I can label that my variable which I call serial number, though it may make sense if I say serial number, but to some it may not make sense. Or let's even drop all this variable that we have and get our variable ourselves, a new variable ourselves. So I've dropped all the variables that I have in the data editor. So I want to create new variable. So let me just enter a new variable myself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let me just stop at 12 observations. So I'm going to quickly rename this variable. It is variable AR1 as, let me call it age. Let's just say hypothetically is age of 12 individual. So I press enter. So it has named that AR1 as age. But to give it a label so that what is that age? Is it age of a cat, age of rat, age of what? So I can give a description. I can label that variable appropriately. And the command is just say label. Then that variable we want to label will follow. So let me say a variable age. Then in quotes, the label will now follow. I may say age of the respondent or age of a baby or whatever. But let me just type something. Age of respondents. And I close the inverted quotes and I press enter. Invalid syntax. Okay. I don't need to put age again. I told us in the previous lectures, the moment you see red ink, it means that your command is not valid or STATA is not taking that command. It may be valid, but probably there is a existing code that is, for whatever reason, the STATA is not just taking that command, so you see red ink. So I go to the last command, click on it, bring it back. I don't need to put variable again. I'll just say that variable age. Then I press enter. It's saying invalid syntax again. Where could be okay. The spelling of my variable is what is giving the problem. The variable is wrong. Variable L is missing. So yes, it has taken it. So if I go to describe now, hope my spelling is correct. So that I want it to describe the information. about the data that I have. There is only one data that I have. It's still going to bring out the information as you have seen. So the age, as well as the label, age of the respondent. And even if you click on data editor, you will see the label, the property of the variable on the right-hand side. We all know, if for those that have been following this lecture, we all know what the right-hand side will always display for us to display the properties of our variable as you have seen. So you see the name, the label, the type, and so on and so forth. So we move on. We have seen how to label a variable. The next is if we have our variables that are at levels, let's say a nominal variable or categorical variable. So when we um, get to the coding of variable, we are going to explain that. We are going to explain that. So I'm going to skip that for now. So that is the labeling of level of a nominal variable. You understand it when we get there. So when we have a category variables, you group a variable, so you can label the each level as well, aside labeling the variable itself. So we can look at how do we now create a new variable from existing variable. So when we have a variable, all this we are talking about or we are going through is what we call data editing and management. You see that you have not begun the analysis itself. We are just editing our data, managing our data, or we are preparing our data for actual or read statistical analysis. So now, assuming in the course of your analysis or before you do analysis, you need that maybe you have to get a new variable from your existing variable. Probably you are fitting a model and you believe that a particular variable will have quadratic function on a given variable. So in that sense, you need to square a particular variable. So let me look at a variable that I have. Assuming I want to square this variable so that for my subsequent data analysis, I need square of age. So the command is gen. Gen stands for generate. So I'm generating a new variable. So the name of that new variable, I'll call it maybe age2. So it's equal to age multiplied by age. I may use age squared. I may use whatever. But the important is that what's going to be on right-hand side will be a function of an existing variable. A function of an existing variable. It may be age times 3, so that I'm multiplying 3 through all the observation of my age. It could be age squared, as the case may be. So doing this, so I have squared each observed values of my age, as you can see on the slide now, on the data editor. So I've created or generated a new variable from my existing variable. Another important aspect of generation that I want us to look at is, assuming I want to create a serial number, that is serial number, I want to number my observation serially. STATA has a special command that will do that for us. And the commands will be, again, so the name I want to assign to sort number, to sort variable rather. So let me call it serial underscore number. So I'll now say equals. So I will say underscore n. Underscore n. So depending on number of observations you have from your data set, if it is 100, you are going to have serial number of 1, 2, 3 up to 100. So the starter has that command for sorts. So as you can see, if I say click OK, you see that it has created a serial number 1, 2, 3 up to 12. So if I have 100 observations, it's going to get that serial number for us from 1 up till 100. So this is the procedure of generating a variable or a new variable from an existing variables or variable. Now, the one that KIV that I put forward, let's now look at it. That is coding of variables, or I want to group observations of a given variable. So I want to categorize maybe observations of my variable. Let's look at that our age. So that's variable age, it has 12 observations. Assuming I want to group those 12 individuals into maybe three groups. So we call it a categorization of observation or a variable. So the command is going to use recode. So recode is the command to use for sorts. Then the next thing that will follow is the variable that I want to recode. So let's use age that I want to recode. So after that, I'll give space. I will now be providing the grouping in brackets, one after the other. Let's say the group one is 1 to 4. So I'm assigning 1 to it. I'll say equals 1. I will close it. So give space, open another bracket, provide the next group. So that will be 5, probably to 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 5 to 8. So that will be 2. That's the second group. Then the last one, that will be 9 up till 12. And that will be given 3. So now, if I press enter without providing this option, gen age cat. If I do this without providing this option, gen age cat, the starter will automatically replace wherever it sees 1 up to 4 in age is going to be replaced by 1. And wherever it sees 5, 6, 7, 8, it's going to replace those observations with 2 and so on. But with this one that I put that option, gen in brackets, age cat, it will retain the original variable for me, and create a new variable named as age cat and get series of 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, depending on the number of observations that I have in my original age. So I press enter. So if I go to data editor, you see that my age cat has been created so that all the observation 1, 2, 3, 4 will be given 1, while the observation 5, 6 up to 8 will be given 2, while the remaining observation 9 to 12 are assigned 3. So this is how to group observations of variable. So the command is recode. The command is recode. Now, I'm going to label this new variable appropriately, as well as label the level. We're having 3 levels, 1, 2, 3, or 3 categories, whichever term we want to use. So as I've used earlier on, so I don't need to type new command. I can go to label variable that I've used earlier on. I'll just edit it appropriately. So the label that I want to label, or the variable I want to label now, is age cat. So I edit it, and I will now say age of respondents in category. In category. So I'll press enter. So you see the beauty of labeling now. So whoever that has access to my data, whenever he sees that he sees age cat, he will know that, okay, the age cat is age of the respondents in a category. Age of respondent. Don't mind my uh, labeling. I wanted to type respondents. I type respond, but just take it for that. So that is the essence of labeling a variable. Now, I want to label the level so that I will know what 1 is, what 2 is, and what 3 is. So that, yes, it's I that I know that, but those that will be accessing my data may not know what 1 stands for or what 2 stands for, and as well as 3. So I will now use this command, label, followed by define. So I'm defining its level. I'm defining its level. So what we follow is the age, the variable that I want to define their level, and that is age cat. I'll give space again. I'll now say 1. That's the first level. So open a bracket. What is 1 representing will be inside that inverted quote. So 1 to 3. 1 to 3. Or is it 1 to 4? Yes, it's 1 to 4. So it's representing 1. Give space. 2. What does 2 represent? 2 represent 5 to 8. So put it inside the further code. Then the last one, which is 3, what does it represent? It represents 9 to 12. So that is way of defining the eighth level or labeling eighth level of a nominal or categorical variable. So we press enter. So it has done the appropriate thing. So in case I want to see it, I can say list. I may want to see the list of that category. I will say label list. So label list. So you have seen. So you see label uh, age cards, what one represents, what two represent, and what three represents. So we are having that. So that is how to label a variable, as well as label, in case of a categorical variable, label the level of each of the level of a categorical variable. So we are gradually getting to the end of this particular session, which I call data management. And before we go, let's look at, we will be using list if you want to see just the few first observations of your data. So instead of be going from data editor, clicking it like this, you click to data editor to see what is your data editor, what the variable looks like, what the observation look like, and close it back. I know I told us that as quick as possible, we want to avoid point and click, that is GUI. For those that have listened to or um, listened to our previous lectures, I said that this introduction to Stata will be encouraging ourselves to be using command approach instead of GUI. So you just say list underscore all. This will list all the observations. But if the observations are many, let me press enter to see it. You can imagine if the observations are many, maybe in thousand, and the variables are 100, you see that your screen will be what terms should I use? Jam-packed, will be blocked with that many observations. But I can instruct the starter to just list maybe a particular variable for me and the number of observations as well. So instead of saying all the variables, I can say list just a particular variable, let's say age. So it's going to list all the observations for age for me. But this also, you can imagine if you're having 20, maybe 200 or more than 200 observations, and I don't want everything. I just want the first few. So the command is still list the variable that you want. Then you now say one or in 1 through 5. So this will list the five observations, the first five observations of variable age. And if for all the variables that you have, that you want the first five, you just say, instead of saying age, just type underscore all. So I've explained to us in my previous lecture that what underscore all stand for. Underscore stand for all the variables. Instead of repeating the variable, just say underscore all. So you are referring to the starter will consider all the variables in that execution. Now, I have these variables, and maybe per adventure, I see that a particular value is an outlying point. So I want to remove it or replace it with another value or whatever value. So there's a command to do that as well. So for instance, if I want to replace the fifth observation in my variable age, the fifth observation there is 25. I want to replace it with another variable. So the command is replace. Then that variable that I want to replace a particular observation from will follow. So that's age 2. So I'll now say equals. The value I want to replace it with will follow. Let's say it's 20. I will now say in 5. So I want the command to replace the fifth observation in age with that value 20. So I press enter. So it has replaced that 25 with 20. It has replaced that 25 with 20. So let me use that command to list the first five of that age 2 to see it for us. Age 2. You see that that 25 has been replaced. So it is now 20 instead of 25. And if there are many, if they are and they are close together, maybe I want to replace the first five observations of age, the first five observations of age. So what I'll just do is let me edit the last command again. Replace. Instead of saying in five, I'll say in 1 through 5. I'll say replace. The variable I want to replace the observation will follow, which is age 2. Then the value I want to replace them with. So I want the first five observations of my variable age to be 20. So I press enter. So it has replaced them. So if you look at the last command on the or edit the list age. So I want it to list the first five variables for me. So you see that it has replaced the first five observations with 20. So this is how to use the lists and replace values in our variables. Then I've been using this drop, drop, drop. So if you have data containing many variables in your data editor, and maybe there are some variables that are not useful for you again, you don't need them. They are just constituting nuisance to you. You can drop them singly, individually. So you can drop them individually instead of saying you want to delete, be going to the cursor, the data editor, use delete. No, just say drop a particular variable that you want to drop. Assuming I want to drop a2, I'll just say drop a2. With this command, a2 has been removed from my data editor. So if I go there or I go to describe, you see that A2 is no longer in the data set. A2 is no longer in the data set. Then finally, now we have data that are there, and the data, we have not finished with our analysis, but maybe for whatever reason, we want to suspend our analysis. And we need to save that data so that next time we continue from where we stop. So the command is simple. We just say save. Then the name we want to give to that data, let's give it a practical 5. Practical 5. So that's the name that data. So I've saved it. So I can close my data, starter data editor. So if you go there, the data is still there, but if I close it and I drop the variables, I can load it back. Let me drop all the variables. So I've dropped the variables. If I say describe, you see that there's no information in the data editor. Even if I go there, there's nothing there. So if I need the data when next I come, anytime I want to use it, since I know the name, so to load the data is not that difficult. You know the command we use at the beginning of this session when we say system use, because the data has become part of the system data since I've saved it there and I've not deleted it. So to bring it back or to load it, I'll just say system use. Then type, give space, then the name of the data, the name you use in saving the data, and that's practical 5. So I press enter, you see that the data has been loaded. If I come to data editor, you see it as it is. So it has been loaded back. It has been loaded back to the data starter editor. So with this, we've come to to the end of this session, which we call data editing and management, or in summary, data management. So as I've said earlier on, this is just in preparation for actual data analysis. It's a way of cleaning our data, do the necessary thing before we begin the data analysis. So there are more to it, but as a beginner, so these are the little things that I think we will need as a beginner of user of STATA for data analysis. So thank you for listening, and God bless.